Domestic football was back this weekend after the early season international break. But Micah, I've not seen you. We've not seen you. Where have you been? You're always on the telly and suddenly you're not, apart from dancing around cars.
Just so my car to weave my heading. You still see me though.
Where have you been?
I've been relaxing. I had a lovely weekend off. I was filming A League of Their Own for 3 weeks. And this weekend, I needed a weekend off. I've been shattered.
Shattered? You've just had an international break, for fuck's sake. What's up with you? A weekend off?
Some of us work the international break, Alan.
Well, you didn't play many internationals, Micah, so what are you talking about? Right, let's start with, the North London derby, I suppose. That was the kind of big game of the weekend. It wasn't a great game. It wasn't a great spectacle, actually. I expected it to be a bit more end-to-end. Arsenal are hard to beat, aren't they? They defend so well. They really do.
Seriously, I've just, because Al's done the game live, so I'll let Alan have his say on it. But we have to start giving praise to Arteta. Not only because he was without key players, which I'm sure Alan will get into a little bit later, but the fact of how flexible he's become as a manager. When we talked about Arsenal before, we talked about them on the front foot, high energy, press, praying through the lines or whatever. That game against Man City last season when they drew 0-0, it was like, okay, Arsenal can defend as well. And I don't mean just defend, because they've always had good defenders, but they can change the way they approach the game and defend with numbers behind the ball and be very organised. So the way Arteta has been able to do both, dip into both systems, I just think he needs so much praise.
Yeah, it'll feel like a missed opportunity for Spurs, won't it? When you've got no Odegaard or Rice in there, and they huffed and puffed, but they didn't really create anything. I thought the main reason, I thought their crossing was really poor. They got into wide areas a lot.
Has been all season, Gary. That's been, even in the first game against your boys Leicester, they had so much possession and chances, and I know then they were at home and won, but then against Newcastle, very similar. Newcastle was slightly fortunate to win. It was only because Spurs were really poor in the final third, and I thought they were again today. I thought when both teams were announced, I thought more interesting attacking from both teams. I thought there would have been more goals, but without playing that well, Arsenal, another set piece. Gabriel, who I thought was absolutely outstanding, not only for the goal but for his overall performance, was superb. But opportunity missed, I felt, for Spurs when you consider Arsenal without two of their big hitters, and Odegaard and Rice. You wouldn't have never thought so. I think once Arsenal go 1-0 up against you, they're tough to get back, man, because they got the best back four in the Premier League without a shadow of a doubt. They don't give hardly anything away, and Spurs just kept trying to put hopeful balls into the box, and it was Arsenal dealt with it easily, and they deserved the 3 points, Arsenal, without playing particularly well, which has to be a good sign.
Certainly does. I think, we've mentioned Saliba a lot, but that partnership with him and Gabriel is very strong, as you just said, Alan. I mean, Gabriel's he's a warrior, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a warrior.
He's a player you'd really want on your side, and he does chip in with the odd goal. So, although bit of a push.
Come on.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he's got to be stronger there, hasn't he? I mean, it's goodness me, Romero, wasn't it? He had a little appeal, didn't he? But
it probably was. It was probably,
if he had gone over
55-45, I'm saying it was in the favour of a foul. I would say he just. I don't like to give foul. I don't like to see fouls given for that. But he did push him, didn't he? So
he definitely pushed him.
It was.
They were never going to turn that one over.
No, they wasn't going to turn it over. Of course not.
Got to be stronger though, hasn't he?
Yes, he has to be stronger.
Yeah. he's tough to mark in the box, though. I mean, he's a real threat. And Saka's delivery is usually right on the money, isn't it?
Well, a movement, first of all, you've got to have a great delivery, which obviously Saka has. Then you've got to have someone who desperately wants to get on the end of it, which Gabriel did. And his movement, and as I said, his desire to get on with it, and then the execution with the header was magnificent. Arsenal are a proper threat, man, with set pieces. They are brilliant at them.
The only thing I would say is, looking at set pieces from a defensive point of view, like he scored from, was it just inside the 6-yard box? So about
4.5 yards out, yeah.
You're thinking, goalkeeper, allow the goalkeeper space to come and collect it. When people put men on the goalkeepers, you understand that, but I just think when the ball goes there, you've rather got to have someone in that zonal space to head it, go out and don't worry about man-to-man, because Spurs have gone from basically zonal to a sort of man-to-man system now. And if you look at where Romero was for the goal, he wasn't even looking at the ball. He was just looking at the man. He got square on. Then he started looking at the ball. By the time he looked at the ball, it was too late. But I just think that bit in the central area, like, it's so key. That bit you need to protect. And I just feel like Vicario, the goalkeeper, needs to take to his defenders, and I know they work on it all week. I need to become and be able to collect them balls, because they shouldn't be scoring from 4 yards out in the middle of the penalty box, in my opinion.
He strikes me a bit, Vicario, as he's a brilliant shot stopper. He's brilliant on his line, but teams have recognised his kind of lack of willing to come out for crosses, particularly from set pieces. So they are being, as you would expect, they're being targeted. How do you address that, I wonder, as a manager?
He had one in the first half as well, didn't he, where he sort of came and sort of flapped
a bit, just got a flick on it. But
you just address it by, Gaz, he did defenders. So Kasper Schmeichel, again, wonderful shot stopper. He could come for crosses, but I would say it wasn't his strongest part of his game.
Well, he didn't. He very rarely came for crosses.
So we would work in training on not making him have to come from them situations. Put someone, or put two people in the centre of the goal that can just be zonal. You'll have a few blockers around, and just leave the goalkeeper to focus on the reaction of where he needs to go to if someone has a shot. But yeah, I just feel like he's being exposed. I think it's easy now, because we did something on Match of the Day, I think last season, about the amount of times teams were targeting Vicario, but you need to help him out, That's what they need to do. They need to help him out a little bit more if that's his weakness.
It's already looking a little bit like Man City and Arsenal again, isn't it?
Tell you what, it was a huge win for Arsenal today, because if you remember, Arteta said they have to be almost perfect in their pursuit of going after Man City again. So this is a huge week for Arsenal, particularly they had today. They got Champions League Thursday, and then they've got City next weekend. So it was hugely important that they got 3 points today.
Yeah, and they did. Let's go on to Newcastle, Alan. I know you've been desperate to do that.
Wondering when you're going to go on to the big game.
Yeah, the big game of the day. Once again, they've found a way, and Eddie Howe made 3 changes, didn't he? At half time, which paid off in the end, because one of them, obviously Harvey Barnes, scored the wonder goal that won the game. But they turned it around.
No, they did. That's what you have to do. Obviously, he wasn't happy with what he saw in the final 20 or 25 minutes of that first half. They would go 1-0 down. It was actually a good start, for about 20 minutes. They played really well, had 2 or 3 good chances, didn't put them away. And then Wolves came back into it and were the better team. And so then he changed it, and you need a reaction. You need someone to go on and change things. And his subs, I thought, worked perfectly. Newcastle had more energy. They managed to get in behind a little bit more. And they might not be playing brilliant football, Newcastle, but what Eddie has created is an amazing team spirit, which at the minute is actually getting them through games. The first 4 games, they've won 3 and drawn 1, and they've yet to play well for 90 minutes. So that has to be a good sign, I guess, doesn't it? So
well, what would your starting front three be? I think the midfield more or less takes care of itself. You got Tonali to come into it as well.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, Tonali to come in, Joe Willock is a huge part. I mean, he gives Newcastle something different with his energy and his ability to run beyond the opposition back four. So he's got some big decisions, and you're right in terms of, Barnes and Gordon both want to play on that left-hand side and cut in on that right, and they're both very good at doing that. Hence Barnes. Gordon went down the middle today because Isak came off at half-time. So if he can find a way to get both of those in the team. But what Newcastle, and also you can see why he wanted to bring another centre-half in, because I thought at times they struggled in that position. But what Newcastle have got this season at the minute, which what they didn't have last year because of the injuries, has got the ability to change things when it's not quite working. And that's exactly what they did today at half-time, and that's what's won them the game.
Yeah, if Barnes keeps doing that, though, he's kind of forcing his way in, you would have thought. Yeah. But at the same time, which player do you shift? Do you play Barnes on the right or Gordon on the right? What would you do?
Probably Gordon on the right if Isak's going to be fit. I know Wilson's been injured and he hasn't appeared this season as yet, but probably Gordon on the right, and then Barnes on the left hand side and Isak down the middle. That's a really, really good front three.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of big threat there. Yeah. Both of them running at players, don't they? Gordon and actually all three.
And also you've got Joe Willock who can play on that side as well. Whether he plays as a front three or a midfield left of a three, then he's a real threat as well. I think he makes such a difference to Newcastle. If they can keep him fit, then he would have a really good season. 3 really good goals as well in that game. I know Charles was a slight deflection and a bit of luck, but the other two, I thought the Wolves goal was it was
such a clever goal, wasn't it? With the dummy. Brilliant.
Did you see where I think it was Gomez and Lamina who actually won the ball? They were the ones that came from nearly their edge of their own box to get into Newcastle's box, and one dummied it and one finished it and put it away. It was a really, really good goal.
But Barnes was the best, wasn't it?
Poor. Worldy, wasn't it?
Strike. Was it the best goal of the weekend, though? Was it better than Duran's goal?
No, Duran's goal was unbelievable, wasn't it? Crikey.
I know, yeah.
I think brilliant. That was probably just edged it, but that was a fabulous goal. But I think with Wolves, I know they've only got 1 point from their 4 games, but I think they've got enough to climb the table. Yeah, don't you? I think
not sure. Not sure.
Really?
I look at them. Look at their next 4 or 5 fixtures. Yeah. City, tough. Liverpool,
got some good
Brighton,
players.
Villa. Yeah, they've got some decent. I don't know. I think it could be a tough season for Wolves.
I'd probably agree with just Gary. I think they've got enough. I feel at times when Gary O'Neill came to Wolves, we could see a plan, identity, and he tries to play through the lines. All the things we talk about when we try to do the tactics. Sometimes I feel with Wolves, they try overdo it at times. I feel as though they always want to play really good football. So I'd agree with Alan in terms of they may struggle because they're trying to play the right way. But in terms of quality, I believe they'll be all right. I really do with Ait Nouri and Gomez, Lamina, Belgade, Semedo, Sam Johnston. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I have to agree. Performance of the weekend, Forest.
Oh, absolutely outstanding. They had a game plan that worked to perfection, and they were absolutely outstanding. There was no fluke about it. They deserved to win. They were the better team. They defended incredibly well, not just as a back four, but as an 11 basically, and they were outstanding.
Can I ask you what happened to Liverpool? Because you guys got to watch it, didn't you? That was the 3:00 game, so I only seen the highlights on Match of the Day. What went wrong for Liverpool?
I think you have to give a lot of credit to Forest.
Oh, was it more?
It's like Alan's analysis did it. That they defended so well. Liverpool couldn't find a way through. And they had 1 or 2 chances, but they didn't really create as much as they normally do, and they just struggled to break Forest down. And Forest were always a threat on the counter attack, and had 1 or 2 other chances in the game. It's interesting with Forest. They a lot of their fans think that us on Match of the Day, we really don't like them, and we don't give them we don't give them their flowers, Micah, or their petals. They complained a lot, and I saw some of them. They were on again on, they're going to have to say something nice about us. They'll hate that, which is quite fun because one of our producers, as you know, Finchy, is a big Forest fan. Our floor manager, Marco, is another Forest fan. I always find it quite amusing that fans think that we could probably be against their particular side and be biased against them. But
well, how much of a say do you actually? I know it's down to Rich, the editor of the program, but you've been there 30 years now, guys. You must have a little bit of a say. Come on,
say on what? The running order.
The running order, of course.
Oh, you know as well as I do that Rich and myself we talked through it, but I think generally it picks itself. Most of the time. It looked almost certain that Forest would lead the show yesterday, and then obviously that another incredible comeback from Villa with the goal with that against Everton with that extraordinary goal from Duran. Coming from 2 down. So, if you pick in the game of the day, which, we call it match of the day, that probably just edged Forest, which we thought would definitely lead, but that went second. It's interesting actually because we've explained the running order a little bit, and I've actually got some statistics. Let me find them from last season's running order and who was top the most, who was in, and it pretty much goes how we explain, because generally like any sporting event, you generally focus on the leaders. So they would, particularly I think in the second half of the season. If Forest had beaten Liverpool and they were in the title race and it was the last couple of months of the season, that would have definitely gone first because it would have been such an important game. But as it's only, the 4th game of the season, that didn't really apply. So at this stage, we just picked probably the best game, which I think was definitely Villa-Everton. So I've got it here actually. The average positions on the show were last season, Liverpool, their average position was 2.5. So that's say we've got 8 games, that would be where their average was. Man City second with 2.5, Arsenal then 2.6. So they were the 3 teams that were in the title race. And then it's the teams generally chasing the top 4. So you've got Tottenham, average position of 3, Man United 3.1, Aston Villa 3.2, Chelsea 3.3, and Newcastle 3.7. And then generally what happens is you focus on the teams right at the bottom because that becomes the most interesting thing. Again, this is mostly towards the end of the season, which you would expect because the games at the bottom get really, really meaningful. So after Newcastle, halfway down, we're at Forest, who just avoided relegation, Luton, who went down, Burnley, who went down, and Sheffield United are actually quite low down because they went, pretty much relegated very early, hardly got any joy. So then it was below Luton was Burnley, as I just said, West Ham, and then the sides in the middle of the table. Now, the middle of the table sides are always generally towards the average position would be towards the bottom because the last couple of months of the season, they haven't got much to play for, so their games are not quite as interesting. So down the bottom it goes Wolves, who finished 14th, Brentford 16th, Brighton 11th, mid-table, Everton 15th. They just avoided relegation, but they're quite low. And then Palace, Bournemouth and Fulham, who were 10th, 12th and 13th. So that's how we kind of work things out.
So basically what you've said, read the last 3 again. Bournemouth, Palace,
Bournemouth, Fulham, all mid-table, 10th, 12th and 13th.
So those fans give you the least stick. That's why they go last. That's how it works.
Not at all. All fans give us stick. Not at all. But yeah, obviously it's the editor's ultimate decision. But you know, we always discuss it. And if it's very, very rare that we disagree. Sometimes there are games that are almost the same. We finish, games where there's a result are always better than games where there's a draw. Unless it's a draw right at, that's in the title race towards the end of the season. So that figures in Richard's thinking and my thinking as well. So yeah, I think generally, you can always tell with when we're doing okay, because the fans will whinge about the running order, but they only ever whinge about where their team is on. So the bias is not ours. I think it's theirs. But I always find it quite amusing. But yeah, Forest fans in particular seem to take umbrage. Maybe it's because I'm a Leicester man.
Must have been happy at the weekend. Must have been happy with where they were, the analysis, the result, and everything. They've had a great weekend.
They certainly have. Everton's, once again, I mean, I felt for their fans yesterday. They looked distraught in the stadium. 2 consecutive games, going 2 up and losing 3-2. I mean, it wasn't quite as traumatic as the Bournemouth game. And you always suspected in that game that Villa were on top for most of it. And you always suspected they might come back, but boy, oh boy, that must hurt.
Yeah, it was a bit of. It wasn't a capitulation like it was 2 weeks ago against Bournemouth in the the 86th or 87th minute. There were the moments in the game yesterday for Everton were Calvert-Lewin going through to make it 3-1 and missing, and I said straight away, within 5 minutes Villa are going to equalise here. And it was about 4 minutes 50 seconds, which they did. And even when they went up, Calvert-Lewin still had another chance to make it 3-3, didn't they? It was like I mean, the moments yesterday that went against Everton, but they were beaten by an outrageous strike, weren't they? I mean, what a goal! My God,
wonder goal.
The swaz, whatever you want to call it, on it was just bloody brilliant.
Can I ask you two on the striking? So, when Calvert-Lewin goes through one-on-one, and we've talked about, and I've talked to Joe Hart about his goalkeeping and when he sort of makes the decision to come out and smother strikers. So when he went through one-on-one and then Konsa sort of like behind him, I think it was, how much time do you have, or is it instinctive? Do you take a touch in a certain direction, then opens up the rest of the goal? Because he's going through, I don't know if it was confidence, I don't know if it was a bad touch, I don't know if he thought he had too much time. Can you explain to me what happened in that moment at top level Premier League football?
If you look at what happens when Haaland's been through twice in the last 2 or 3 weeks, one-on-one, he has always controlled the situation. Whereas what happened yesterday with the goalkeeper, and when I say Haaland controls the situation, because of his body shape, he can actually go whatever way he wants. Or he can do what he's done twice, which is actually dink it over the goalkeeper. Now, if you looked at Calvert-Lewin yesterday, he was just flat on to the goalkeeper. And the goalkeeper was always in control of the situation. And the goalkeeper, he never blinked, and his job is to try and delay the forward, just to try and get help back. And he delayed him and delayed him and delayed him. And by the time he decides to come back inside, it's too late because Konsa's got back. So for me, he was always flat on and he never opened himself up and gave his body options of which way to go.
I thought he made 2 mistakes. I think let's say it was a brilliant run in the first place. It was perfectly timed run. I think he made 2 mistakes. His first touch got the ball right under his feet. So we talked about Haaland. Every time he gets it, particularly he likes to get it out of his feet, mainly onto his left-hand side if he can. Whereas Calvert-Lewin, the ball was exactly in the middle of his 2 feet. The other thing I thought was when he was running through, he slowed down too much. And that, if you do that, then you have to know that a defender is going to come and get close to you and chase you. You know they're going to be chasing you. And normally you can feel how close a defender is. You just have that spatial awareness as a striker. But the thing is on one-on-ones now, and I think Haaland's worked it out beautifully. Keepers now are trained on one-on-ones, or maybe they're not trained, they just do it, but they all seem to do it, where they come out, they'll stop at a certain point where they think they've got the best possible angle, and then just before the striker goes to finish, they generally do like a semi-splits. They get one leg down and the other completely out, and then you can either slot it through the legs. And I think that's where Haaland knows they're going to go down. So the little scoop that he's done in consecutive games now, very similar goals, over the goalkeeper. But again, it's a lot easier to do that if the ball is outside of your feet, one side or the other, depending on which you prefer. So I think he got a couple of things wrong, and it was kind of a bit stuttered and a bit staggered. If you go at speed at the goalkeeper as well, it gives them less time and you're more in control. And it also gives you different options. He eventually tried to go round the goalkeeper, but because he'd moved so slowly, the defender got back and blocked it off. If he'd have been doing that at speed and then took it round the goalkeeper, when the goalkeeper's coming at you and you're going at them, then it's very difficult for the keeper. So, I mean, he gets it wrong on that occasion. As a striker, he now has to learn from that. I think it was the touch that did for him mostly, but also the speed of which he went at it.
I thought he did all right actually in the game. You know, his general
he
play.
played well.
He was a handful for the two centre halves and made it a difficult game for Villa. But those two crucial moments fell to him to make it 3-1 and to make it 3-3.
They've got some good players, Villa, though. They're really good. I mean, Watkins is back scoring goals as well. He's had a bit of a spell, and he could have had a hat-trick. Missed a chance just after he scored his second. It's amazing, isn't it? You go a few games without a goal, and I think about 8, since his last Premier League goal or something. So, but once you get one, then you get another. Wasn't it Ten Hag used the tomato ketchup analogy, didn't he? When you shake the bottle and you can't get it out, but once it starts, it keeps flowing.
Was it talking about ketchup? Sounds something else.
He was knocking it on the top like as well, the bottle.
Oh, no, come on. The Duran goal, though, my goodness me. I mean, I know we've mentioned it already, but what did you call it? Swaz.
The way he cut across it, didn't he? Just to get the cut on it. It was like, it was like. And when he was contemplating shooting, I'm thinking, nah, you're not from that distance. No. And anyway, when he pulled the trigger, blow my neck, what a strike. What a goal. Yeah. The office erupted at that just because of the sheer quality of the goal. Yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. So I think, Villa going well again. As are, of course, Manchester City. But they didn't have it all their own way. I thought, Brentford, in the first half particular, I mean, they were brilliant. I mean, they're pressing, they were brave. And I keep saying, I love it when teams have a go at City and try that. I know it leaves you vulnerable and you might get a good hiding. But most teams just sit, don't they? All 10 players, outfield players, sit on the edge of their own box and they eventually wear you down. They win 2 or 3-0. I think the teams that have caused City the most problems are teams that have had a real go in the high press. And I think tactically they were very good, weren't they? Class.
I went to the game, actually. I forgot to mention that.
Were you there?
Yeah, I went to watch Man City Brentford. Totally echo everything that you've just said. I think in terms of the way they approached the game was really good. They could have scored 3 or 4 in that first half. I feel as though, I don't want to say they're a better team without Tony, but I would say they're a little bit more dynamic. I think that they lose something in terms of aerially and when they want to get the ball into the box. Tony was really good at holding it up. But in terms of transition and how they want to get from back to front, it's brilliant with Wissa and Mbeumo up front.
They're really good, those two, aren't they?
They're so
really
good. The only problem, they do go man-to-man. And if you go man-to-man against Manchester City, Man City have better players. So at some point, there's going to be opportunities. If you see for the goal, the Haaland goal, his second goal, it was him against Pinnock. And it was brave, it was courageous, all the good things defenders should have if they want to be a top defender. But he just allowed him to get on the wrong side of him and then use his strength in a 1-versus-1. Yeah. And I remember he did similar to Dunk, I think it was a couple of seasons ago. Same pass from Edison, long ball, used his body, barged him off the ball and just scored a goal. But in terms of the way they approached it, that was very exciting. We worked with Thomas Frank in the summer. He told me that they're going to play attacking football. He stuck to his word. And I think they've got some good players, Brentford. I really like the...
Bit of a nasty challenge from Kovacic, wasn't it? I hope, because he came off injured, didn't he, Wissa?
Yes.
So I hope he's actually all right, because he would be, with losing Tony and the other centre-forward they signed, it would be a blow if he were to be out for a while.
The one thing I would say about when you do play high against Manchester City is that Haaland will lick his lips. Because with his power and pace, I mean... For him, he would probably not like it when teams just sit 10 men behind the ball because he's in the box, he doesn't get much of the ball and he's just hoping for scraps. But when they're high on the halfway line, he'll be and he loves to make that run behind and he's almost unstoppable when he gets gets full steam. I mean, God blimey, and his one-on-one finishing is brilliant. And if I were a striker, if I were like someone like Calvert-Lewin, I'd be watching Haaland. What's he doing? Get it out of my feet. Get it out of feet. Go quickly. Make it. Use that little scoopy finish. Use a variety of different finishes. But I mean, having said that, he does get a lot of chances in the Manchester City team. So if he misses one, it's not the end of the world. If you're missing one with a club that's struggling, then it can feel like the end of the world.
Although his record's not very good this season, 20 shots he's had, Micah, and he's only got 9 goals.
Oh, what? Just over 1 in 2.
He's hit the post about 10 times.
Oh my God!
Incredible. 72 league goals, was it, in 70 games? Bloody hell!
He's nearly beat your hat tricks already, hasn't he? He was so close, hit the post.
I know, nearly yesterday. Yeah.
I'll tell you who was good though. I don't know if you see who's doing the game, but Lewis Potter, the left wing back, if he had a yard, and this is not me being critical, if he had a yard more pace, he could play in a top 4 team. He's so good on the ball, makes good runs, his passing is good, his energy's good, he's got everything, but he's up against, obviously, Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker's just got that little bit more pace. He got into some really good positions, having a really good battle down that side, but I was really impressed with him. He's one for the future.
I mean, the one thing with City in recent seasons is they've not generally started brilliantly. So it's got to be really worrying for the rest of the Premier League, or the title chasers anyway, that they've started emphatically with 4 victories, even though they weren't at their best against Brentford, mainly because of the way Brentford played.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worrying for the rest who are hoping to get near them. Arsenal and Liverpool. Liverpool being beaten and Arsenal the draw. What was it, 2 weeks ago? But it's gonna be tough, isn't it? Because they're that good. I mean, they're just outstanding. They're an outstanding team.
They very rarely have a bad week, do they? Most teams have the odd game where he's a bit lethargic, but not them. Not with Pep Guardiola, that's for sure. Manchester United, they struggled for the first half an hour. Southampton played really well, didn't they? But the penalty was the game changer, wasn't it?
For 30 minutes, Southampton were brilliant. Chances, as you say, and it was looking really worrying for Manchester United. And then they get the penalty. And we said, didn't we, on Match of the Day last night about Brown Diaz has taken 9 penalties and scored 9. Yet Cameron Archer's never taken 1 penalty and missed it, and that was the turning point in the game. And you just felt the atmosphere completely change. As soon as he saves that penalty, that was it. We said that was the chance. They're not going to win this game now. And Man United got a bit of confidence from that, and then Rashford gets his goal. Much better from Rashford in his performance. And then from the moment they missed the penalty, Southampton, it was always going to be a Man United victory.
We talked about Rashford, and it's kind of been a little bit of a kind of leak that says that, Marcus Rashford's not happy with the criticism that he's been receiving. They think it's a bit unfair, particularly from ex-players, ex-Manchester United players as well. You've been one of those, Alan. We covered it shortly on because we never have that much time on Match of the Day. But what do you think?
I wouldn't change anything that I've said. I think he set his own very high standards. He's a very good player. He's on a huge contract at Manchester United, and he hasn't played as well as he can do or has done in the past. And when that is the case at a big football club, when you're a big name, you're going to get criticised. And he did. But he doesn't get criticised for performances like yesterday, when he's tracking back and running and taking players on and scoring his goal. He looked a really, really good player yesterday. He's now got to do that, and for the rest of the season. Then, there was a reason, I said it last night, there's a reason why he wasn't in the England squad. So it's not just the pundits who were critical of him. Other players have overtaken him from where he was a couple of years ago, and there's no doubt that there's the talent in there, but that has to be a regular. That has to be every single week, not just against Southampton as it was, and then he won't get criticised. Pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah, but you're not criticising him, are you? You're analysing. There's a difference. I feel that there are pundits or people who work, or journalists or whatever, who just want to criticise Man United because they know it's going to go massive. No disrespect to any player who's playing now. We don't need to criticise anybody. That's not my style of punditry anyway. I feel as though you're well in your rights to talk about a forward for Man United who has got so much ability. We talk about the runs that he's making, the chances that he was missing, and we genuinely care for him because we want the best for him. So I don't buy into this, we want to have a bad opinion about what Rashford is doing on and off the field, because if anything, we try to protect him because we were footballers ourselves, we know exactly what it's like not to be playing well. So, I feel as though when players hit back, even the fact that even Kane was saying stuff in the Euros and all the stuff that we were saying, now the players, now that Southgate has left for England, are now saying themselves, So that's the thing, you've got to look at. All we're doing is trying to do our job, and if we criticise someone, it's never personal. It's always just about the football.
So that was a huge result for Man United yesterday.
Correct.
They needed that.
Huge result.
The manager needed it as well,
Absolutely,
didn't he? He really did. And in the end, it turned out to quite an emphatic victory, but it certainly could have gone the other way. Chelsea are doing okay. They weren't brilliant again, but they got the victory. It's a tough place to beat. I think Bournemouth play some really good football. They're really very well coached. Seems like there's stuff going on in the background. It's like the battle with the owners. Yeah. We can't be exactly sure, but that sort of thing doesn't help, does it?
No, because it eventually sort of filters down, doesn't it? Whatever happens up top, it's a drip feed onto the pitch, and the coach or the manager, whatever you want to call him, just wants to get out and do his stuff on the training ground and then go and do the matches. But having to talk about ownership issues or whatever it may be is not what he wants to do. But we know It's a strange football club and has been for a while now.
You know, it's just so frustrating that, you get a win, and we've talked about Chelsea for a while now, and they need to do better. They're starting to look better. They've got the right players in. Yeah, whether you agree with the contract situation in terms of the amount of years that they sign, but wouldn't it just be nice for them to play football on the weekend and just concentrate on the football for once? It always seems like there's some negativity surrounding them, and I feel as much as the players can do better or could have done better in previous seasons, I feel like there's always something for them to deal with. It'd be just nice if they could just get on with the football.
There's quite an interesting interview post-match that we put a little clip on Match of the Day, where I think Maresca was asked, wasn't it? It must be nice to just talk about a victory rather than talk about other things that are going on in the club. And you could see it in his face. He was going, God, too right. Too right.
You can imagine.
Yeah, too right it is.
Yeah, but he knew what he was going into at that football club, didn't he? Because it is run, has been run very, very differently to what is the norm.
I was a bit heartbroken yesterday, Micah, with Leicester. Played really well in the first half, played some good football. Got 2-0 up just after half-time. Then they had a goal that was originally ruled out for offside, and then VAR decided it wasn't. I don't know how they did that, but anyway, it was yeah. And then you just kind of thought, they're gonna equalise, and of course they did. And Conor Cody, he'll know himself that he just got caught out.
Did you see him with his head in his hands? I felt for it. I was just like, when you've made it and you're just hoping and praying for it to be offside, or I don't know, the players dived or something, but he just knew.
Oh, even as a Leicester, as soon as it happened, I went, oh no.
Yeah, tough on it. It was a tough watch for him.
Yeah, none of the promoted sides have yet won a game. I think Leicester have got a couple, 2 points from 2 draws, decent draws. Ipswich, I think, have done okay, organised. Southampton play their way, but they played really well yesterday for half an hour, and it's still early in the season for these teams, and most of them have brought in a lot of new players, so it takes time, but it's tough now, isn't it? It just seems like
the gap's getting bigger.
The gap's getting bigger and bigger. I don't know. Maybe we're just going through a little patch where, obviously last season, all 3 of the sides that had previously been promoted were relegated quite comfortably in the end, really. And I think we were as a Leicester fan, but I don't know. I think I'm going to be kind of optimistic.
Where did you have Leicester staying up, Gaz?
Well, of course I did. I'm not going to say Leicester are going to go down. At the same time, I'm thinking if I don't say Leicester, who else do I say? Everton? I don't want to say Everton either because I play for them. So anyway.
Micah, you should have heard him raging yesterday, man, with that. When the lines were being drawn across, for that offside to make it 2-1. There was steam coming out of those massive fucking ears. Honestly, you should have seen it. He was getting so angry, so animated.
But those lines, though...
suspect.
Honestly,
semi-automated is on its way. It's on its way. Well,
I think that'll be a good thing, because I think then it'll be we'll get it, and then you're just told, and then I think we'll perhaps trust it. But at the moment, the angle that they had as well was from it was so unclear, and when you looked at it, you just went, well, he's offside. It's definitely offside.
Offside.
It's so clearly offside. I saw Cooper at the end of the game. He was kind of a little bit exasperated, but he said, I just need a bit of clarity on this. There's no way when it's that kind of narrow a margin that they can tell, because obviously the contact to the ball, you can never tell exactly when he hits it. So I just think if the referee's assistant, as it is, if the referee's assistant puts his flag up, and I mean, it took them about 3 minutes, and the longer it took, I thought, oh, they're going to give this offside. They're going to give it offside. I mean, I was completely biased, obviously, but I think I'd say the same thing if it was another team, but not quite with the same passion. Okay, see, Harry Kane got a hat-trick yesterday.
Yeah. Did he get an assist as well? I think as well, didn't he? Hat-trick and an assist.
Yeah. They won 6-1. He's
flying, isn't he?
I would talk about it because Haaland obviously is going at the rate of a goal a game, marginally better in the Premier League. Harry Kane's doing exactly the same in the Bundesliga. I think it is nowadays, isn't it, that the real great goal scorers in world football, Lewandowski, Messi and Ronaldo towards the end, do score at that rate. Whereas in our time, 1 in 2, or if you could be a bit better than 1 in 2, that was seen as good as you could get at that particular stage. Because obviously lots of changes in the laws. You can't just kick people anymore. The playing surfaces are better. Offside level used to be offside. Now it's not. Micah's giggling away here.
Well, hold on. I did tell you that you two's, well, maybe I told Alan's era, there was better defenders around. Now you can.
Yeah, well, there is that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So you agree with me now, are you?
No, I think in terms of defending, because that was more of the job. Whereas now, obviously, teams build out from the back, and it's more important how you are as a footballer, perhaps, than how you are as a defender.
Yeah.
So I think you've got a point with that, Mikey. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're playing in that Man City team, how many goals do you reckon you'll get in a season if you play every game?
Oh, I'm scoring 20.
No.
I'm scoring 20.
Shut up. You've been on the drink or what? I'm scoring 20.
I think at the age of 63, if I played for them now, I think if I laid it down on the edge of the 6-yard box, I'd still score half a dozen a season. Because my hamstring would go, so I'd have to lay down.
In your pump.
In my pump. Oh, God, your bucket's full. Well, that's all for today's episode of The Rest is Football. We'll be back on Wednesday answering the best of your questions in our Q&A episode. Have a great week, everyone. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Have a great week.